right, so the next story, the New York City congestion pricing, how much drivers will have to pay, exemptions, surcharges, and more. So we've been talking about this for a couple of weeks on the podcast, and we finally have a breakdown of what people are gonna have to pay, what businesses are gonna have to pay, and what rideshare drivers are gonna have to pay. And it's much, much worse than I thought.
Latest cost of living increase for people living and working in the city.
Yeah, we're talking about this hot button issue, congestion pricing. Today, a board recommended a $15 toll for cars that enter Manhattan at 60th Street and south of that street. Now, there are some exceptions.
News 4's Melissa Colorado is live with details for us.
And guys, after months of speculation, how much is the toll going to be? Who won't have to pay the toll? We're finally getting a clearer picture of this congestion pricing plan. And we're also learning that groups who thought they would be exempt, we're talking about people who live in the zone, people who are going to medical appointments in the area, and public sector employees. We're learning they too will have to pay the toll.
I just want to say that's pretty crappy. If you live in the area and you have to pay this, so also keep in mind, this doesn't stop the other tolls that it takes to get to New York City. I know most of you probably don't live there, but when I drove from South Carolina to Manhattan, it cost me almost $100 in toll just to get to the city, right? And it's absolutely ridiculous. It's like there's several bridges that you have to take. You're going to be paying a toll. You're going to cross one bridge into Manhattan, pay a toll, take another bridge to get to the Bronx, pay a toll. And it's like a mile from each other. This is a lot of tolls. So it really, really sucks that people who live here will still have to deal with this. So that means if you leave and you come back into where you live, you're gonna have to pay like a congestion tax. That's pretty insane.
We'll hit New York.
From this Upper West Side dad
Because it will affect everybody.
to this hotel doorman,
I don't think it's fair for the regular people that work in the city.
New Yorkers are facing the reality that the country's first congestion pricing program is finally taking shape.
So this is the first one in the country, but it's the third one in the world. Hong Kong, I believe, has one, and I don't know where the other one is.
By next spring, the average driver may have to pay a $15 toll for driving on or below 60th Street.
We really made an effort to keep the base toll as low as we possibly could.
The board in charge of coming up with New York's congestion pricing plan revealed the toll pricing structure meant to discourage drivers, improve air quality, and collect $1 billion each year for the MTA. Customers hailing taxis or hopping into a rideshare will have to cover the toll charge.
Okay. Oh man, I wish it wouldn't pause right over it. I do believe it's in the article, so we can kind of like hovering on it. There we go. So this is the breakdown for passenger vehicles, $15, small trucks, $24, large trucks, $36, motorcycles, right? Here it is. This is what we really want to focus in on. So now we can see the taxis, they get to pay $1.25. I don't know why the taxis get to pay a cheaper like rate than the rideshare apps, but whatever, it is what it is. Rideshare apps pay $2.50 per ride. Now, initially, if I had to pay what the cars paid as a rideshare driver, $15 per hour, I would rather pay the $15, not per hour, but I would rather pay the $15 per day, right? You pay it once and then that's it. They're not going to double charge you even if you leave and come back. But as a rideshare driver, this is now different. If I take 10 rides, right? That's $25 just for 10 rides. If I'm going in and out of New York City 10 times, which if I'm working a 12 plus hour shift, that's easy. I can do that in 4 hours. I can average 10 rides in 4 hours. That's going to add up, right? And I assumed that it would have been the $15, but this new update with information that they're giving us, it's $2.50. Now, that is a cause for concern. So I wonder if they're going to stick with this. But let's finish up with that video.
That's $1.25 for taxi customers, $2.50 for app-based rides. Box trucks will have to pay $24. Larger trucks must fork over $36.
Even stepping outside of rideshare, if a business, right, let's say there's one business and they have to deliver a bunch of food to all the McDonald's in that area. Let's say there's like, I don't know, 20 McDonald's. They have to pay for large trucks 20 times, right? It might be different trucks, it might be the same trucks, but for the ease of the example, that can be a lot of money. Now, you might be thinking, oh, they're big corporations that can afford it. Not all of these corporations can. You're gonna have a lot of the mom and pop places who do food delivery for people, like truck deliveries, that won't be able to afford this. And it's going to equal out to be hundreds of thousands of dollars that is suddenly added to your business balance book. And if you are already struggling, this could kill some businesses.
Absent this, we're going to be choking in our own traffic.
It's going to affect my pocket, honestly. It's going to be pretty tough.
The MTA says money from the tolls will go into improving the city's subway and bus networks. But doorman Horacio Colon is unsure if that investment will make the subways safer.
I don't feel comfortable taking the train, so I prefer to drive.
New Jersey.
The trains are awesome in New York City. I mean, weird stuff can happen, but it's the best public transportation I've ever had in my life and anywhere I've ever been.
Drivers bracing themselves for a more costly commute on top of the tolls they already pay to cross the Hudson. Governor Phil Murphy is outraged.
It's ripping off New Jersey commuters to pay for whatever financial failings the MTA has. We're considering all of our options, including further legal action.
The board is recommending a $5 discount for drivers who use any of the 4 tunnels to get into the city, but no credit for drivers who cross the George Washington Bridge.
It's a little
That's the expensive one.
outrageous,
like $20.
to say the least, especially for somebody that commutes like myself 2 to 3 times a week. I mean, with the cost of living going up, the wages staying, Now,
I will say, for people who don't live in the area, but they commute to work there, I do think the public transportation is better. It's not as convenient, but I think they'll be okay. So I do think this will be a bigger harm to businesses and rideshare drivers. All right, so we'll move forward with that. So New York City's, this is some good news. New York City's minimum wage for delivery drivers is upheld by appeals court. So if you're not familiar with the backstory, New York City drivers union, taxi people, the TLC people, they sued Uber and Lyft. And from that lawsuit, they are required to do a bunch of things like give them paid time off, the whole thing where if you get deactivated, then there has to be like a good process for getting reactivated. That comes from this lawsuit. There's a new minimum wage that's been set, and they appealed. And so this is the response to that appeal. A New York State appeals court has turned away a challenge by Uber Technologies, Inc. and other companies to New York City's novel minimum wage law for app-based delivery workers, allowing it to take effect. The Manhattan-based Appellate Division Appellate? I don't know how to pronounce that. First Department on Thursday denied appeals by Uber, DoorDash, Inc. and Grubhub, Inc. after a state judge rejected their claims that the law unfairly targets food delivery services. So I think the assumption here was that the hourly pay was justifiable for rideshare drivers, but I don't think the food services can afford it. And I agree with that. The food services don't make as much money as the people services. The court in September had temporarily blocked the law while it considered the appeals. The law will require companies to pay delivery workers $17.96 an hour, might as well just call it 18, which will raise to nearly $20 in April 2025. Companies can decide whether to pay workers hourly or per delivery, which will be based on the hours workers log into the app. Uber, DoorDash, Grubhub Inc., and a smaller food delivery service, Relay, claimed the law will force them to shrink service areas so deliveries do not take as long, ultimately hitting customers and restaurants and drivers. Maybe. Like, it might make it more competitive for drivers. Some drivers might win out from this, but you never know how things are going to go when there's like big changes all at once. In September, State Judge Nicholas had allowed the law to take effect, but blocked the city from enforcing it against Relay pending the outcome of the case. The judge said that unlike other companies, Relay cannot immediately raise the fees it charges to restaurants and needs time to renegotiate its contracts. That's fair. The appeals court on Thursday denied the company's appeal without explanation. That's unfortunate, but so it goes. DoorDash in a statement said the court had chosen to ignore the harmful consequences such a misguided minimum pay rule will cause and failed to justify its decision to allow the city to pick winners and losers in how it's applied. I think it should be applied holistically. I might not agree fully with the ruling itself, but I don't see why they should pick and choose how it's like executed. I'm not a fan of that. Spokesman for Uber and Grubhub in separate statements said the companies were disappointed with the decision. Okay. New York City Mayor Eric Adams, a Democrat, said the decision was a major victory for delivery workers. And it is. It is. So New York, I mean, they do have their issues with rideshare, but I do think they are the best place to be a rideshare driver. The minimum pay rate will guarantee our delivery workers and their families can earn a living and keep our city's legendary restaurant industry growing strong. Subjective. This last part, I don't think that will happen. Supporters of the city's law, which is the first of its kind in the United States, say it is needed because delivery workers in the city earn about $11 an hour on average after expenses, far below the city's $15 minimum wage. I believe that. I believe food delivery, like, your money is really going to come from tips. And even in my experience, when I did food, I earned about half the money I earn now. So if I'm earning like $30 on average with Uber and Lyft, I was earning like $15, $17, $18 an hour doing food delivery. And once I tried Uber and Lyft, there was no going back for me. App-based delivery workers are usually treated as independent contractors rather than company employees, so general minimum wage laws do not apply to them. This is true. Uber and the other companies filed separate lawsuits in July, which were consolidated, they say, city officials based on the minimum wage law based on flawed studies and statistics. Well, then it's up to them to create better studies and statistics, which would obviously be more in favor of themselves. The companies allege that the city's surveys of delivery workers were biased and designed to elicit responses that would justify minimum wage. Like that happens. That's real. But Mahone in September said the companies overstated the importance of those surveys to the city's legislative process. The judge also rejected several other claims, including that the law was invalid because it covers workers who deliver food from restaurants but not from grocery and convenience stores. I see what the issue is now. Okay. The case are Uber Technologies versus New York City Department of Consumer and Worker Protection and DoorDash Inc. versus New York City Department of Consumer and Worker Protection, New York State Supreme Court, Appellate Division. I gotta figure out how that's pronounced. Okay. All right, so that's just an ongoing update into the new New York City minimum wage for delivery drivers.